Hello everyone! In this video, I will explain why and how I make corned pork. I am not a cooking expert, but this is what works for me, so use at your own risk. Please subscribe to my channel to see future content, and give this video a like if you find this helpful and entertaining, and share if you feel anyone else might enjoy this video as well. So, my local grocery store runs a special on large cryovac packages of pork shoulders a couple times a year. I often stock up on those, and I would typically cook them in a slow cooker with mild seasoning, package, and freeze it for later use. It does freeze and recooks well. I mainly use it for pulled pork sandwiches, chili, breakfast hash, and my favorite use is for my Mexican dishes. But it is very versatile and has many uses, and since it is already cooked, you just need to thaw what you need and heat up and add the flavors for the day's dish. This is a lot more convenient rather than preparing and spend all day making something from scratch each time. But let's get back on task here. This is about making a more affordable option to corned beef. I really like corned beef, but it can be expensive. I like to use corned beef in Reuben sandwiches, a breakfast hash, or with your traditional vegetables like carrots, potatoes, and cabbage into a kind of stew. But pre-packaged or just making it from scratch with a beef brisket can be pretty expensive, which is kind of ironic because I believe corned beef started out as a lower-cost dish long ago, as it would use one of the toughest parts of the cow and soak it in a pickling brine to help preserve it for longer. But now it has become more of a delicacy and only prepared for special occasions. So I started to wonder if using pork might work as an alternative. But after doing some research, I found some, but not much info on making corned pork. But I wanted to give it a try, as the process is not much different than using beef, but I wondered if it would taste the same or how different it might be. To my surprise, on my first attempt making corned pork, it was very similar flavor to corned beef, so most of the flavor must be due to the corning spices and process. The method I use is for cooking in liquid in a slow cooker. I suspect if you cook with a dry method, there will probably be some differences in flavor and texture, but I'm sticking to the wet method for my dishes, as it's easier and less chances of failure. Although my first attempt turned out pretty well and tasted like corned beef, it was a bit saltier than it should have been, but I think that might have been because I did not wash the pickling brine off as much as I should have, and even added some salt to the slow cooker, as I did not expect that the brine solution would have soaked into the meat so well, but apparently it did. Today is my second attempt to make corned pork. Now that I'm an expert, after only one try, I thought I would share my process. I normally cook for myself and not others, so I typically use recipes as guides, and I don't often use precise measurements, and I may even adjust ingredients depending on what I'm feeling at the time. I will list the measurements I used in this recipe, but I can't guarantee it would be to your liking, as it has not been tested with other people. For this recipe and process, I use Alton Brown's corned beef recipe and process, as I enjoy the way he explains the science and fun, quirky examples on how food reacts to different ingredients and processes. He recommends using fresh spices for dishes, and I can blame it on not wanting to spend more on better spices, needing more space to store them, the risk of them going bad as they don't get used often, and the extra time to combine and prepare them. But it comes down to I'm just kind of lazy. And they make a pre-packaged pickling spice blend, so I just go with that. So to get started, I verify I have all the ingredients and supplies I will need. Since I am making corned pork only and not creating a specific dish, as I will divide and use it for multiple dishes later, I will not need many items to prepare this. The star of the show will be an 8-pound bone-in pork shoulder, but this came in a 2-pack, so I will prepare both pork shoulders at the same time to cook the second one later, so I will need about double the brine solution. I have a 5-quart pot that I filled about halfway, but I should have added more water and I end up adding more later. And then turn the heat to high to get started. I collect the ingredients I will need for the brine. I don't normally set it on the stove, but that is just for presentation and to show what I will be using for this first step. For the ingredients to create the brine, I have a pre-packaged coarse fancy pickling spice blend, table salt, and pink curing salt. Do your homework on pink curing salt, as it is not the same as pink Himalayan salt and should not be used like normal salt. It is optional, but if you want that traditional corned pink color, and I think it helps with the absorption of the brine solution, then you would use the curing salt. I will also use brown sugar to enhance the flavor. As a reminder, these ingredients are just for the brining process. Some will get absorbed into the meat, but most of it will be washed off before the cooking stage. I collect the measurement tools, but although I am not normally precise with my measurements, I do want to calculate the salt needs just to be close, as I have no idea what 10 ounces, or in my case, what 20 ounces of table salt looks like. As you can see, it is a lot more salt than I thought I would need, but it is a good thing I have backup supplies. Each 10 ounces was a little less than a cup. Now that I added more salt than I thought I would need, I need to add more water to help dissolve it. I do not want to add too much water, as this will eventually need to be cooled, so the less hot brine to cool, the faster I can move to the next step. I added about a cup of brown sugar. I added about 6 tablespoons of the coarse pickling spice blend. I do like strong flavors, so I am adding a bit more than the recipes say. I give it a stir and realize that the salt concentration is high, so this will take some time to dissolve. I wanted to be a little more precise with the pink curing salt, so I double-checked my measurements. The instructions said to use 1 teaspoon per 5 pounds of meat, so I used about 3 teaspoons. Then I let everything come up to a boil and stirring occasionally to get the salt dissolved. This is a good opportunity to do some cleanup and prepare for the next steps. Once the brine solution is boiling and the salt is dissolved, I remove it from the heat, and to quicken the cooling process, I add some ice. And to help cool further, I will add the pot to the sink with cool water and some leftover ice and give that a few minutes to rest. Meanwhile, we will move to the star of the show, the pork shoulder. More specifically, the upper half that is often called Boston butt or pork butt, although it is cut from the front leg shoulders, whereas to the similar area on the rear leg is called the ham, but is actually the butt of the pig. Who is naming these things? So I have a 16-pound cryovac package with 2 fairly even-sized bone-in pork butts, so I will brine both together and then only cook one at a time, since I only have one slow cooker. I break open the bag and try not to let the juices spill everywhere. I will then trim off some of the large fat areas, as this pork has plenty of fat, and trimming it a bit will help the absorption of flavors. Now I will need a large container to brine these in. I did not have any kitchen containers large enough, but I got an inexpensive 5-gallon plastic bucket at my big box store for only a few dollars. It doesn't specifically say food grade, but I think that is just some marketing to guarantee it is safe for food, but I am sure this will be fine for short-term use, especially because it is new and I gave it a good wash before using. I add about half of the brine solution, and then the 2 pork butts side by side, and then the rest of the brine solution. Then I add more cold water until the pork is completely covered and give it a good mix. I also add a large zip-top bag filled with water to use as a weight on top of the pork to make sure it stays submerged. One additional nice thing about this bucket, it comes with a tight lid to keep moisture in and air out. I will now store it in the refrigerator for about 10 days. Luckily, I have a spare fridge in the basement with space for this next to my homebrew beer. I just need to set some reminders to mix up the pork and brine solution every few days. Oh, wait, all that work deserves a beer. The 10 days is up. Now I need to plan what cooking temperature and time I want to use. You can do the high temperature method, and for this size of meat, it might take about 5 or 6 hours to cook, but I don't normally recommend that method if you have the time. Or the hybrid method I normally use is about 2 hours on high and then about 6 hours on low. But since it is currently late in the day, I will go with the low and slow method this time. That should take about 10 hours, so it is almost done in the morning. I don't bother tracking temperature as the meat falls apart around 200 degrees, and since it is cooked in water, it will not dry out. But I have seen if it gets cooked too long and too high, the meat fibers can toughen up as all the fat renders out, so you want to avoid that, as we are not making corn to pork jerky, but that might be an interesting option someday. Now I grab one of the pork butts from my brine bucket and give it a good rinse, including between any folds, to remove as much brine as possible, as there should be plenty of salt and flavor within the pork, and if we leave any behind, it will be too salty. I place the rinsed pork butt into the slow cooker, and you could add just plain water, as there's probably plenty of flavor within the pork, but I like added flavors, so I will add some additional spices. First, I will add more of the coarse, fancy pickling spice, but since it has whole pieces and includes larger bay leaves and cinnamon sticks, those won't soften or break down, so I will enclose them within a cheesecloth pouch so it can soak to release the flavors, but I can easily remove it when done cooking. I will place that pouch under the pork. This would be a good time to add some beef broth, but I currently don't have any, so I will just fill the slow cooker to the top with water. Hopefully the pork is completely covered with liquid, but this guy is just slightly too large, but it should be okay, especially with the lid on, and I will flip it late in the cooking process. I will add some more spices to enhance the plain water flavor. I will just be winging it from here, but I am adding about 3 teaspoons of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, only 1 teaspoon of ground coriander, as there is already coriander in the pickling spices, and finally 2 teaspoons of a more basic mixed pickling spice. The pieces are much smaller and does not have cinnamon sticks, so there are no tough parts to worry about in the finished product. I give it a slight stir, but the boil process will mix it up well. Now to set it to low, set a 10-hour timer and call it a night. The next morning, after about 8 hours, I poked around the pork with a fork and confirmed it will need another hour or 2, and then flipped it over to even out the cooking, and we'll give it another 2 hours. After about a total of 10 hours cooking, I tested it again to confirm it is falling apart. Check out that bright red color that comes from the pink curing salt. And it tastes awesome. To be honest, I am not sure why I'm sharing this process. I should be opening a restaurant to sell just corn pork dishes. I wonder how corn pork ice cream might turn out. Probably sweet and salty. I expect credit if anyone makes it. Or send me an ice cream maker and I'll give it a try and let you know. But anyway, I then turned off the heat and removed the slow cooker's inner ceramic pot and let it cool for about 2 or 3 hours. Otherwise, it would be too hot to mess with. This will also allow the meat fibers to relax and retain more of the juices. Now it's time to break up the pork into smaller portions, as I'm not planning on serving this today, but I will sample as I go. I will separate and pull out most of the fat I can easily access. Once I remove most of the fat, I will add back some of the cooking juices a little later. Once separated into smaller containers, I will cover them and let them sit to cool more. I will then strain the leftover juices to remove any larger spices and any remnant bits. The liquid is mostly water, gelatin, a little fat, and some spices and pork flavoring. I will then add the juices to a pot and boil to evaporate about half of the extra water and concentrate the gelatin. There is a little fat liquid, but not a lot, but the gelatin is a lean protein byproduct and will add moisture and flavor to the pork and helps with the freezing process. Once the liquid is reduced to about half of the volume, I let it cool a bit and then add it to the containers of pork. If you plan to freeze it, you will want the pork to be completely submerged in liquid or the meat can suffer freezer burn. When you plan to use the meat, you can thaw and either drain the liquid or cook it in the liquid. Depends on what you're preparing for the day. Now I need to rest a bit and then start the cooking process again for the second pork butt. The next day, I couldn't help myself, so I made some corned pork and hash with some thawed tater tots chopped up for breakfast with a side of cheesy eggs. Yep, it was as awesome as it looks. For lunch, I still had some leftover pork, so I made some corned pork tacos with cabbage and homemade Thousand Island dressing on a corn tortilla. That turned out great as well. And for dinner, I thought, why not? So I had to break into my other portions and separated the juices into a pot and added some water and cooked some potatoes, carrots, and cabbage until soft and heated up the corned pork for another great meal. Well, that is it for this project. I hope you found this video helpful and want to try this for yourself. If you do, please let me know how it turns out for you. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, cook it, love it, share it.